There's a legend round here. A killer buried, but not dead.
Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am building something that has been requested quite a bit, especially around Halloween time, a Jason mask from the Friday the 13th franchise. Now, there are a lot of iterations to this mask, and it's one of those that's kind of simple, but you got to get the shape just right to make it look right. You clicked on the thumbnail. I don't know that I achieved that, but we're certainly going to give it the old college try. One of the reasons that I'm hesitant to build this thing, other than the shape being just right, is you can get them for really cheap. Like, you can get a pretty good version of one for $20 to $50, which would be cheaper than what I could sell one that I'm making for. You could buy the really cheap ones for like 99 cents. Like, this is garbage. It's made for children. It doesn't fit an adult's face, and it's not very accurate to the movie. It's kind of like it's a rounded square almost. I don't really know where they got this. The holes are all wrong. It's garbage. So today we are going to make a Jason Voorhees mask from Friday the 13th out of EVA foam to fit a a large grown adult's face. Let's get to building. This is Bob. Say hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
I'm going to start this video by showing my pattern making process. Bob here is about 1.5 inches smaller in circumference than my head is, so I always add a little bit of thickness of foam to him before I start the shaping of the build. Once I've done that, I move on to taping layers of foil to him in order to get the shape I am going for. Once I'm good with the shape, I put one last layer of foil over the whole structure and then cover that with duct tape. I mark my cuts, eyes, holes, all that stuff as I have him on the form. It is all a rough guess. You may have noticed that I've left off a nose. I'll take care of that later. Once I have the foil duct tape pattern cut off Bob, I transfer this pattern onto some sturdy poster board. I use a pattern notcher to cut out my registration marks and then proceed to transfer the pattern. This pattern, once I've used it for the build, gets taped to a sheet of copy paper and scanned into my computer to share with all of you. It's usually at that point that I make guesses on the thickness of foam, angle cuts, label the parts, divide parts into smaller pieces so that I can fit it on the paper, and any other extra help that I can give those who try to make this build. My patterns are always free and in the description below the videos, saved as a PDF on the last link. Here I am tracing the pattern onto my foam. I'm using some 6mm HD foam from SKS for this build. You will notice that I make an attachment to the two sides right around the nose area. You'll see why here in a few minutes. Once you trace the right side of the mask, flip the pattern label side down and trace again to get the left. Once the pattern is drawn onto your materials, it's ready to cut out. Make sure you use a sharp blade to get the best results, and be careful as super sharp points make for super easy cuts on your skin. Bobos, owie, no. All the cuts on this build are straight 90-degree angle cuts, so it shouldn't be too difficult. I'm going to go ahead and do a little heat forming on the top and the bottom of this mask. This will help to bring the foam closer to its final shape and relieve some of the pull put on these seam lines. Heat the foam up with a heat gun till it's soft and then push it over a rounded object. I like to use a glass dome that goes on my back porch light. I have contact cement on all of the edges, but the section underneath the nose, I didn't. I will be heat forming that portion up in a minute, and I don't want it to separate with the heat, so I'll hit it with super glue when I get to it. With contact cement, you apply it to both edges, give it a few minutes to set up, and when it's no longer wet to the touch, you can permanently attach them together. Now, heat does help separate it, but I try my best to get it right on the first go. That way I don't have any rips or anything in my foam, making the outside as flush as I possibly can. Cut the eye shape a little differently, and this could make for a good undershell for something like a Spider-Man mask. You're probably wondering at this point where Jason's nose is. I did not play some juvenile game where I got it. I'm gonna push it in here in a second. One of the nice things about using foam is you can heat it up and stretch it pretty far without it ripping. I'm going to take the back end of this chisel tip Sharpie and my thumb to push in a nose. As the foam cools, it retains the shape you push in it. I also heat it up around the eyes and the bridge of the nose to shape it better around my brow. Compared to the real mask, my nose sits a little low, but you know what? It fits my face pretty nice. Chances are your seams won't be perfect, and that's perfectly okay. A rotary tool or some sandpaper can even out that mistake pretty quickly. I use a sanding drum to knock back the high points fast, then switch over to a stone bit to smooth over the sanding lines. Jason's mask is just an old school hockey mask, so now I need to add all the holes. I mark them in their general locations on the pattern, so all I have to do is punch them out in some way. I chose to use a rotary tool and just plunge the bit into the foam. You could also use a hole punch, sharpen pipe, or even burn it with a wood burner. Whatever route you take, please be cautious. Use a respirator and work in a well ventilated area while sanding or burning foam, and if you choose the sharp edges route, be careful not to cut yourself. To seal up some of the seam lines that I still have a little better, I'm going to use some Mod Podge on the outside of the mask. Oh, and I went ahead and built 2 of them. I don't know if that was clear or not in the videos leading up to this point. Initially, I had planned on painting 2 portraits, but ran out of time and had to compromise later. I covered the entire outside surface, making sure to let it pull up in the cracks I don't want to be in the final result. 2 coats of Plastidip. Then I hit it with a brown spray paint. There are tons of approaches you can take when you are painting props. When I want to go super aged and dirty, I like to start with the darker color first, sloppily paint on the light color, and then put washes over the top of that. I feel like the extra layers give me depth in my paint job, and I can hit the surfaces with sandpaper a little bit to scratch it up and add some texture too. I use acrylic paint to brighten it up and then water down with a little bit of darker acrylic washes later. Here I am marking where the red details on his mask go and then hand painting them with some more acrylic. You could tape them off if you want to, but just marking them faintly with a pencil worked for me. Once the red had dried, I hit it with brown and black washes to dirty the whole mask up, so you'll notice a drastic color change in the next shot. Originally, I wanted to paint a portrait on each, but due to having a busy week at school and at home, I was pressed for time. So instead, I'm going to decoupage a nicely printed out version onto this mask. I made 4 claw marks over the eye for one of them with the intention of putting Freddy Krueger on it. So I wet down the area with Mod Podge, stick the cut paper into position, then put several layers of Mod Podge over the top to seal him in. I put his face and his claws on this one mask. So for some reason my camera started recording long enough for me to be confident that it was recording and take my eyes off of it to focus on blood effects, only to realize later that it stopped recording after about 30 seconds. The battery was fine, I just may have accidentally pushed some setting or something as I was setting it up. All I did was mix some 5-minute epoxy with red acrylic paint and a small drip of black, then slathered it on the masks. Now I'm putting on the straps. I want it to look at least a little like the real one, but I didn't have the proper materials and snap buckles to use, so instead I'm using some 1-inch elastic banding and Chicago screws with washers. I burned a hole in the foam and the banding with my wood burner, then pushed the screw through with the washer to mimic the look I was going for. Once I had the sides and the top strap attached, I wrapped them around an O-ring on the back, glued them down, and then used some thin 2mm foam to secure the connection even further. And with that, Jason's mask is pretty much done, one with a nod to Freddy and the other just highly battle damaged. With Halloween coming up soon, what's a classic monster or horror villain prop you'd like to see me try and tackle? Let me know down in the comments below. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think they turned out pretty good. Now, I initially wanted to paint this like I did my butcher's knife that I made a while back, and I just kind of ran out of time. So decoupaging is another option if you just kind of got to get something on there, or maybe your painting skills aren't that great. I don't know that I could have achieved it to make it look that good, but it works in a similar fashion. I really loved the blood effect and dirtying the mess out of these things. The other criticism that I can say about this is I don't know that I got the shape right. I think it goes too far back on here, which I'm going to make an adjustment in the template. And if you want to make it rounded over on the top like I did, you're more than welcome to. But I'm also going to draw a line that goes across the top here so that if you want to make it a little bit coming across the forehead a little more like what's in the actual movies, maybe that'll help you. But yeah. Maybe you'll try and build one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to make something super creepy that a guy who got drowned into a lake and all kinds of messed up stuff. Yeah, that's pretty horrible. Maybe you'll get some... And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. That noise is really, really creepy. Maybe if I wear his mask, he won't come stab me to bits. You better put one on too, real quick. Here you go. All right, let's get out of here. Get up. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.
No matter what they do to you, you cannot die. You can never die.